Among the greatest, if not the greatest test of the Christian faith is the extended delay of Jesus' return. Jesus has gone away in search of a kingdom, and while he's gone, he expects his followers to brace themselves for a long delay. He goes to prepare a place for us, he says, and when he returns, he will come again and receive us to himself, so that wherever he is, there we may be also. His absence presents us with a challenge, though. Now that Jesus is gone, doubts certainly arise. Is Jesus actually alive? Is Jesus actually coming back? Maybe we were wrong about him. Maybe I was a fool to believe in him. Why does it seem as if I'm wasting my life waiting? In the second part of the three-part series entitled Noah and Lot, a Retrospective, we are going to continue our look at Luke 17, where Jesus not only challenges us to expand our thinking with regard to the nature of the kingdom of God, but to resist the claims of false teachers and false prophets who will attempt to lead us astray. To follow along with us, stay tuned. Jesus' delay, undoubtedly, leaves some of his followers vulnerable to soul-crushing doubt, and for this reason, he relates to his disciples what is of primary importance for their survival. Don't be fooled by charlatans falsely claiming to have special knowledge about the alleged second coming of Christ. Trust the plan. Gain advanced knowledge of the future and understand what the events mean when they happen. Here in Luke chapter 17, Jesus speaks about his second coming, giving his followers cautionary advice concerning what to do and what to avoid during the times leading up to his return. And he said to his disciples, "The days will come when you long to see one of the days of the Son of Man, and you will not see it. They will say to you, 'Look there, look here.' Do not go away and do not run after them. For just like the lightning, when it flashes out of one part of the sky, shines to the other part of the sky, so will the Son of Man be in his day. But first, he must suffer many things and be rejected by this generation." As he discusses the future with his disciples, his immediate concern is the fact that he will soon suffer many things from the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed and be raised up on the third day. This kind of bad news can wreck a man's faith. For this reason, he prepares his church with advanced knowledge of the future, so that when these things begin to take place, and knowing what it all means, they will not despair and lose hope. Men will come. They always come, attempting to make a name for themselves. Some of them preach Christ from selfish ambition, Paul says. There are men who love to be first in the group, jealous for their flock, keeping other teachers away. Such men preach whatever the congregation wants to hear. They speculate and form their own opinions concerning the end times. They attract large crowds with elaborate pictures of judgment for pagans and rewards for the congregation. There are many voices out there with ulterior motives and unclear agendas, giving false hope to people. Some men are simply mistaken, others are given over to wishful thinking. Whatever the reason, these false teachers will present a false, counterfeit picture of the coming of the Messiah, which unfortunately preys on our longing for Christ's return. For this reason, Jesus gives his disciples and us a clear image of the days prior to his return. What kinds of situations and circumstances should we see prior to his second coming? What will the days of the Son of Man look like? Well, he has already told us to expect a dramatic, unmistakable arrival, one that will be like lightning flashing across the sky. Next, he will give us additional ways to recognize those days. Earlier, Jesus drew a comparison between his coming and the phenomenon of lightning. No one should be able to argue, it is here or it is there, because his arrival will be as obvious as a flash of light in the sky, so bright it catches your eye. All eyes will see him, and none of them will fail to miss it. Next, we learn something about the general state of affairs we will find when he returns. Drawing on the account found in Genesis 6 and 7, Jesus teaches us that the days of the Son of Man will be like the days of Noah. When he returns, he will see the same social environment evident in Noah's time. And just as it happened in the days of Noah, so it will be also in the days of the Son of Man. They were eating, and they were drinking, and they were marrying, and they were being given in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark, and the flood came and destroyed them all. During the time of Noah, when the flood came, people were acting normally. They were participating in common, everyday activities without any hint that something extraordinary was about to happen. And just as in the days of Noah, when Jesus returns, people will be washing the dishes, taking out the garbage, feeding the cat, walking the dog, watching TV, and participating in all kinds of ordinary things that people do every day. There will be little, if any, hint that something is about to happen. If that was true in Noah's day, it is no less true in Lot's day. It was the same as happened in the days of Lot. They were eating, they were drinking, they were buying, they were selling, they were planting, they were building. But on the day that Lot went out from Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Here Jesus draws on the account found in Genesis 19, which gives us a bit more information about the social environment that will exist at the time of Jesus' return, but more importantly, he gives us a cautionary example intended to warn us about the dangers of hesitation. Jesus employs the flood event to highlight the absence of nervousness, agitation, or excitement before the flood came to destroy the world. And just as it happened in the days of Noah, so it will be also in the days of the Son of Man, he says. Jesus employs the Sodom event to highlight the attitude of those who lived in Sodom just before fire and brimstone rained down and destroyed the city. On the day that the Son of Man is revealed, people will have a positive outlook, looking ahead. Activities such as marrying, planting, and building anticipate a stable, steady future. People who believe the world is about to end don't get married, don't plant a crop, or begin a construction project. Why bother? Before we examine the next few verses, I would like to point out some subtle differences between the two accounts that might prove to be important later. How much time did God give Noah to prepare a seaworthy ark, gather all the animals, and warn his neighbors of the coming flood? I'm not sure exactly, but I'm pretty sure it was decades, right? How long does it take to build a ship that large? The point is, Noah had a lot of advance notice that the world was about to be destroyed. How much advance warning did God give Lot and his family before the city was destroyed? Maybe half a day and a full night? Between the time when Lot heard the news and the moment when fire and brimstone rained down on the city, he had only minutes to escape. Noah was given months to prepare. Lot was given hours to prepare. The contrast between the two events might prove significant in our understanding of this passage. I'll need to think about this further. I see another contrast between the two accounts that I'm certain Jesus intended us to discover. On the one hand, Noah entered the ark voluntarily, acting freely and rationally according to his belief that God was speaking truthfully about the future. Lot, on the other hand, didn't exactly go willingly. I'm sure he appreciated being saved, but at the exigent moment, when it was imperative that a decision needed to be made quickly, someone else made the choice for him. Unlike Noah, he was not given the time to work out the problem rationally, taking the requisite time to draw his own conclusion. The city of Sodom was about to be utterly destroyed in a fiery explosion, and if Lot and his family did not escape with haste, they would be swept away and perish. But they just didn't move fast enough. They hesitated, which is why the angels physically grabbed Lot and his family and forcefully removed them from the city with great haste. Taking them outside the city, the angels cried out to Lot and his family, "Escape for your life. Do not look behind you and do not stay anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains, or you will be swept away." But Lot's wife did turn back. Why? It will be just the same on the day that the Son of Man is revealed. On that day, the one who is in the housetop and whose goods are in the house must not go down to take them out. And likewise, the one who is in the field must not turn back. Remember Lot's wife. Whoever seeks to keep his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life will preserve it. What we have here are examples of the kinds of things someone might do to keep his life. And in like manner, we can all think of things we might want to take with us in case our house was about to be destroyed. What is our first instinct when the house catches fire or a tornado approaches? We want to run into the house as fast as possible to remove precious things, costly articles, prized possessions, keepsakes, and personal items. On the day that the Son of Man is revealed, Jesus warns, we must resist our natural impulse to save our life. And what does he mean? To understand his point, we need only ask ourselves the question, how do we define our life, our existence? What is life in essence? What is a carpenter without a hammer? What is a mason without a trowel or a square? What are memories without keepsakes? What happens if I lose my savings? We are highly motivated to preserve and save those material possessions that help identify us as individuals and tools that help us make a living. We want to save the photo albums because those pictures remind us of all the joyful times we had with our loved ones, especially those who are no longer with us. We have great incentive to keep and protect items related to our work because without these we will be unable to make a living. We have grave concern about losing important papers and legal documents such as birth certificates and insurance information that will help us navigate through our legal system. For this reason, the temptation is strong for us to enter the house during a fire or tornado. But if we run into a burning building to grab such things, we are likely to die in the fire. If we are in the house, we must get out quickly, and if we are in the field, we must not enter the house. Likewise, on the day that the Son of Man is revealed, there will not be enough time for those in the house to remove such items, and there will not be enough time for someone to come in from the field, enter the house, and take stuff out. Earlier, we contrasted Noah's experience with Lot's experience. Lot had hours, perhaps minutes, to make up his mind, and yet, when the time came to leave, he hesitated. Lot didn't voluntarily leave the city. In order to save Lot and his family, the angels were compelled to forcefully remove them from the city. But once outside the city, Lot's wife decided to turn back, and she paid for this decision with her life. While inside Lot's house, the angels had no option but to grab Lot and his family by the hands in order to physically remove them from both the house and the city. Once outside the city, however, they were instructed to make haste for the mountains. At this point, Lot and his wife had the ability to act according to their own discretion. Time was of the essence. Those who hesitate are lost. This was no less true for Lot's wife. Though there was precious little time to waste, Lot's wife stopped to turn back, perhaps longing for things and people she left behind. You know what happened. She was turned into a pillar of salt. Remember Lot's wife, Jesus says. The story of Lot's wife remains a cautionary tale about a woman who hesitated and lost her life. A time might come when we will be asked to give up everything save the shirts on our backs, and if that time should arrive, we must not follow her example. Lot's wife made the wrong choice. Don't make the same choice she did. I tell you, on that night there will be two in one bed. One will be taken, the other will be left. There will be two women grinding at the same place. One will be taken, and the other left. Two men will be in the field. One will be taken, and the other will be left. And answering, they said to him, Where, Lord? And he said to them, Where the body is, there also the vultures will be gathered. There is debate among commentators and scholars over the phrase, one will be taken and the other left, about whether one is taken for judgment or for salvation. Since the imagery is patterned after the rescue of Noah from the flood and Lot from Sodom, I would argue that the ones taken are the ones that are saved, as Noah and Lot were, and those left behind will perish. When Lot and his family were outside the city, the angels afforded Lot's wife the opportunity to turn back, if that's what she really wanted. But while his family were inside the house, the angels had no option but to grab Lot and his family by the hands in order to physically remove them from the city, as we have already said. The angels took decisive action, with no time to confer or counsel. Lot and his family were afforded no power of choice. They had no say in the matter. Jesus' examples are no different in this regard. While the men were asleep, one was taken, the other left. The sleeping men were not awake to confer or reason with their captors. They were afforded no option or alternatives to consider. The women at the wheel were not acting on their own initiative. Neither were they given cautionary advice to consider. Neither the man in bed nor the woman grinding at the wheel are required to make a choice. They are not being asked to make a value judgment. They have no caution to remember. They have no warning to obey. The decision regarding who will stay and who will leave is left up to others. Someone else is making the choice for them. Whether a particular man stays or leaves, whether a particular woman stays or leaves, the decision is out of their hands. At this point in Jesus' teaching, his disciples ask, "Where, Lord?" I suspect they were expecting Jesus to name the place to which the chosen would be taken. Rather, it seems, he gives them a cryptic response intended to identify the situation into which they would be placed. The chosen will find themselves in such and such a situation, and we are left to discover the meaning behind the riddle. I'm sure we all have our own opinions as to the meaning of the riddle, and I will wager a guess myself in our third episode of this series. For now, I will leave you with this. The New Testament teaches that when Jesus returns in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne, and all of his followers will be gathered to him. He is coming with the clouds, and every eye will see him, and when he comes, he will reward his bondservants, the prophets, and the saints, and all who fear his name. In our first episode, Jesus challenged us to expand our thinking with regard to the kingdom of God, and realize that God rules in the hearts of his subjects, and they recognize the kingdom when they see it. We also learned that Jesus will fulfill Daniel 7, coming as the Son of Man to receive an everlasting dominion over the entire world. In this episode, Jesus gives us knowledge of the future so that we might understand what it all means, to warn us about the pitfalls, and to caution us to make the right choices when given the opportunity. Remember Lot's wife. Nonetheless, during a particular event, the chosen will not have a choice. They have no warning to obey. The decision regarding who will stay and who will leave is left up to others. Someone else is making the choice for them. Whether a particular man stays or leaves, whether a particular woman stays or leaves, the decision is out of their hands. No conditions or state of affairs attends the decision. The men are sleeping, the women are working. The conditions that attend the taking, leaving are everyday, ordinary activities. Neither one of them are being asked to make a value judgment before they leave. No alarm or signal will sound before they are taken, and yet Jesus exhorts his disciples, always be on the alert. But how do we do that? Be here next time when we will explore this issue further in Part 3 of our series, Noah and Lot, a retrospective Part 3. I have some ideas about the riddle Jesus spoke, and some ideas about how to stay alert while we wait his return. Until then, I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful to your own studies. If you did, please click like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.